How is it? Yeah. Let me minimize. I have to open up here again the Acrobat. So now I'll be able to share it. Yes, it works now. So welcome everyone to that great study. I think it is. I've seen that more people is joining the room right now. So let me just open my screen a little bit more. Yep. So we have stopped on the item 56 last weekend. As I like to remember, please help me out, participate in the study, share your doubts, your questions, your experiences. This is what makes a study. Otherwise, it's just a lecture or an audiobook, if you like. So it's better to participate, and like that, we can learn one with another. The form of the perispirit.
Guilherme?
Yes?
Remember that last week we did some lesson, that we left some lesson before, or I think it was no solar, no? Not the White Medium book. Sorry, it's my fault. Carry on, please.
But it is in line with what we're going to do here. And do you remember the question, Elsa? Yeah, your mic is closed, but the question was, can we lose our perispirit? So do not answer here, because that's for another study, but we can talk about that here anyway. Well, we can talk about that here too. So I think it'll be positive. But let's go through the topic, through the lesson, and then in the end, let's see what you guys think. The form of the perispirit is the human form. And when it happens to us, when it appears to us, it is usually in the same form by which we knew the spirit during its physical life. That is why we might believe that the perispirits, even when disconnected from all the components of the body, must have somehow modeled itself after the body and retained its form afterwards. We have to, I don't remember if it's written here in that sequence, but we have to remember that the perispirit is the blueprint of our physical body. Everything we have in our physical body comes from a blueprint, means has an origin, has been drawn somewhere. It has been, the drawing is the perispirit. The blueprint is the perispirit. So if you do have eyes, ears, heart, things like that in our physical body, the origin is our perispirit, okay? Such does not appear to be the case, however, except for some differences in detail and the organic modification that are required for the environment in which the being must live. The human form is the same for all inhabitants on all globes, at least according to the spirits. So he's expanding even the notion of human forms beyond our globe, okay? I will not focus on this one, but he's giving clearly the information that we do have beings like us elsewhere. And it is also the form of all discarnated spirits who only possess the perispirit. It is also the same form by which the angels or pure spirits have been represented down through the ages. He's making a reference of all the information received over the centuries when we talk about spirits. They all being shown with that form. Therefore, we must conclude that the human form is the typical form for all human beings, no matter what degree of hierarchy they belong to. However, the perispirit's subtle matter is not as persistent or inflexible as the body compact matter.
Yeah, it's Christine.
Hi, Christine.
Hi. That last body of information that you just read out, could you also include in that it's where it says it's all inhabitants on all globes? Could that also mean that it's in different dimensions as well? Is that what it's alluding to?
Yes, this is my understanding.
Yeah.
But depending who you ask, will say no. No, he's only referring to people on Earth. But my understanding is that all beings and spirits are also beings, right? And are human beings, but without the compact matter, he says here on the line. If when we die, do we change who we are? Do we change the species by any chance? No, we remain human beings. So my understanding that sentence is everywhere, applicable everywhere. There's something I would like to highlight here. Inflexible is the physical body. The perispirit is flexible, but a lot of people think it's flexible without any limits. I can change everything when I want, as I think. And I have difficulties to accept that because this is beyond logic, right? So, but in the future, we'll be talking about that. We can apply some flexibility to the perispirit depending on our evolution. Very unlikely, when we die, we all have the same conditions to do something that like Jesus can do, for example, right? There's a hand here. Hi, Munir.
Hi, Guilherme. This is a very fascinating topic. I mean, I like very much this, idea of a human form and the perispirit. And we shouldn't forget that the perispirit is fluidic, it's made out of fluids. And the fluids, not as dense as we find them in the physical world, but in the spiritual world and the perispirit is more flexible. And it depends on the willpower and the development of the spirit to be able to, manipulate these fluids. I think that's why, spirits at our level can't expand that much, can use this flexibility of the perispirit that much because they haven't managed to do that yet. Mm-hmm. But we know that, how we manipulate fluids, it depends on our knowledge and our development as well. And we know that willpower and intention and so on are very important to manipulate the fluid. And the perispirit is fluidic. It's made out of, subtle matter, not dense matter.
I like to say, Munir, that a lot of spiritists, they are romantic spiritists. They like to hear what they want to hear. They always like a nice end on the end of the book or something like that, right? And I'm concerned that some people that only wants to see from that direction, they may be surprised when they find on the other side that they cannot fly, they cannot change what they want when they think, they cannot build anything just because they thought about it, because they want to. So there is a difference between the level we are, our environment, our globe, basically, and what can happen very far from where we are, right? And a lot of people mix what is very high on the 21st floor and what is on the ground floor. We are on the ground floor. When we die, we remain on the ground floor. Our abilities will not boost just because we want, just because we believe. So we need to maintain that perception that things are not always like what we think or what we would like to. Of course, I would like to fly everywhere. Of course, I would like not to work and think and create something just by my thought. But it's not like that.
Yeah, and the spirits, what they say is the general case, what is possible to do. but not what everyone can do at this moment, you know.
Correct.
So there are the particularities. They wouldn't go into every single case to say, well, this one can't because of that, but that one can. No, they give the general possibilities, ideas at what is possible or can be done or what can happen, but not that it will happen for everyone at the same time in the same way.
Correct. I have another two hands. I think Liz was first. So go on, Liz.
Hello, everyone. I think one example of this flexibility of the perispirit could be in the appearance that certain spirits choose to present themselves. For example, Emmanuel, he presented himself in a certain way to Chico Xavier in relation to the many incarnations that he had and, you know, his experiences. He chose that particular appearance, but he was able to do that. I come to what you said, Guilherme, about the level of evolvement and moral evolvement of everyone. And I think that could be a good example of flexibility of the perispirit.
It is a good example, but as we've said here, I really believe that the minority of the spirits around us has this capacity. Sorry. The great majority won't change a thing. Will only be what they are. They cannot fake what they are not. So that's my line of thought. So now we have Charles. Hi, Charles. Bonjour.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, even. Yes, so the French word for this inflexible is rigidité, which is, I don't know if the word in English correctly. We cannot change the form of our physical body. I want to have a bigger head. I'm not able to change this type of things. The maximum what my spirit is able to do is to influence maybe negatively for some illnesses or positively for curing the illness. So, because we must remember that this section is talking about the action of the spirits on the material world. So that's why Kardec is talking about the spirits. But he's just, when we are incarnated, of course, the form of our spirit is somehow giving the form of our physical body, which is not flexible, which is more rigid. And then with regards to the different appearance, I think it's just the next lines that we will read right now, which will explain it very clearly.
Mm-hmm. And you brought to our attention something that sometimes it is a concern. When we do translate something from the original to any language, we need to be very careful with the translation and the meaning of the translation. Regardless that inflexible or rigidity can give the same idea, does not have exactly the same meaning. So it is a concern. Imagine in another 100 years' time when people decide to change everything again, trying to translate again to a different language and so on, we may start to lose a little bit of the original information.
Yet, Guilherme, we have the Kardec original cast in concrete, and we have also the Dictionnaire de l'Académie Française, which was valid at that time, also cast in concrete. So we always can come back to know exactly what was Kardec meaning when he was using that word.
Correct.
Then, of course, we need to change. In French, we cannot change the words. We can maybe put some footnotes, but for the translation, of course, you can use the actual word.
Mm-hmm. Correct. And to those that are thinking, I don't have access to the originals. Yes, we do have access to the originals through la Bibliothèque Nationale de France.
Yes, Kardecpedia as well, and it's everywhere. And this dictionary, you can download it also from the Bibliothèque Nationale de France, Gallica, for free.
So it's just a matter of wanted to. Very nice. we might say that it is flexible and expandable. And that is why the form it assumes, though an exact copy of the body, is not absolute. It is molded according to the will of the spirit, who can give it any appearance it wants, whereas the physical envelope confronts it with invincible resistance. With what we know today, this sentence is not wrong, but it is incomplete, right? So I had a question from a friend that here in this room before. We were having a conversation about spiritism in the SSL premises. And he asked me, is this information wrong? That was in one of the Kardec's book. I said, no, the information is not wrong. The information is correct based in the time it was answered, based with the knowledge at the time, and the context. We need to think about the context, about when the question was made and when the answer was given. But with what we know today, we can say sometimes that the answer is incomplete. And my own perception is that this sentence here, with what we know now, is incomplete. Disentangled from the obstacle that had repressed it, the perispirit expands, contracts, or transforms itself. In other words, it lends itself to all sort of metamorphoses according to the will that acts upon it. It is thanks to this property of its fluidic envelope that the spirit can make itself recognizable when necessary by taking on the exact appearance that it had during its physical life, and even display the very same physical defects that could serve as signs for recognizing it. Is that information correct? Yes. But we could elaborate a bit more. I would suggest to read André Luiz. Evolution in Two Worlds is also a good source of information to help to understand and to expand this sentence as well. There is another book called Perispirits from Zimmerman. It's also very good to expand this sentence, right? And perispirit is flexible until certain point, until certain moment. When we are incarnating, when we are discarnating, there are some mechanisms that is not the goal of this study, but is very positive. I would recommend people to try to dig in to find this information. Hi, Sandra. Good morning.
Hello, good morning. Sorry, Guilherme, here it says, according to the will that acts upon it. So according to the will, so I didn't understand quite well this part of the...
It is saying here that when the spirits wanted to change the appearance, it may change. Appearance of the perispirit, it may change.
As example, Emmanuel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but some spirits can change. Some spirits know how to do it. It's not everyone, right? So that's why I'm saying we can expand what is written here. Is right? Yes, is right, but we can expand that notion. So a lot of people, when they read something like that at will, they start to think that we can do everything at will. And this is not correct. This is partial. Hi, Munir.
Hi, Guilherme. Just using an example. If someone asks, can human beings run a marathon? Yes, they can. Can we run a marathon right now? No, we can't. I can't. I can. I have the possibility to run if I prepare myself to do so. But at this moment, I couldn't. I couldn't run around the block.
Me too.
So I think when they say, they say in that general sense, yes, it is possible. Yeah, it can be done, but not for everyone right now.
Mm-hmm. I had something like, before I let Ebony talk, something came to my mind here. I was having a conversation with a spirit friend in one of our encounters, and a spirit friend, right? Not a spiritist, spirit friend, a discarnated spirit. And he was talking to me. Do you really think we are always knowing everything behind the trees, spying on every single human 24/7? Don't you think I have something better to do? So sometimes we think they have magic powers, but they don't. Remember, they are human beings. They have some different characteristics, but they're still human beings with activities, responsibilities, duties. And sometimes they are not what we think or what we would like to. Hi, Ebony.
Good morning, everyone. With regard to spirits changing their perispirits by will, I've read in some of Andre, I don't remember which book or books, but there were cases on the negative side where spirits who are very intelligent but morally backward, who are able to present other spirits or make other spirits present themselves using under different forms, for example, like animals. And it's because they're under magnetic domination from those who are more intelligent. So they're not able to do it themselves, but under the will of someone more intelligent than themselves and morally backward, they're able to present themselves in ways that are not very dignified. Can you speak a little bit about that?
I will speak about the mechanism. The mechanism exists in life. The mechanism can be used to good or to evil, like magnetism. You can use magnetism to help people or to hurt people. You can use what we know, what you learn here on the Spiritism, to help people or be exactly the opposite. So everything that exists on earth or on the spiritual world follows a universal law. The law is exactly the same. How we're going to use is up to us. If I have the knowledge how to manipulate fluids, magnetism, and to deeply convince a creature that they are something else, I can do that for good or for evil. So yes, it does exist, right? The mechanism is present in nature, can be used by anyone if they bother to learn, if they bother to study and to practice. And it can, in that instance, in that example you gave, Ebony, it does happen more often than we believe. But thankfully, a minority of spirits know how to do it. Imagine if any not evolved spirit had that power to change everyone into anything. It would be a mess, really. It would be very difficult to live with because they want it, they can change. It's not like that, right? There is an hierarchy on the spiritual world like we have here. That hierarchy exists for good and for evil. That hierarchy quite often is the person who acquire knowledge of how to handle things. It's exactly the same as what we do here, but we do for good and they do for something else. So it does exist, and the process to reverse the situation is not easy. Need external support, need external help. And the literature of Spiritism has a lot of cases like that. Don't need to be only André Luiz, there's a lot of more. The spirit can lose its form, its human form, and to the point that lose all forms. And that's what we call ovoidization. Basically, you lose your perispirit, right? That shape, the human shape. I don't want to answer you guys here what I asked in the beginning. Oh dear, I'm setting myself cheap here. And but yeah,
Guilherme, could I also put within that obviously all of us are subject to the laws of cause and effect. And if this is able to happen, it is going to be within those laws of cause and effect. And as in our, as more and more we study here, or, you know, when we study the Spirit's book, when we study the gospel, when we study the wider literature of Spiritism through André Luiz, through Joana de Angelis, Manuel Filomeno de Miranda, lots of these authors, Leon Denis, we understand that the way we think and how we feel about ourselves and life is going to have a great effect on our perispirit. So that is a good food for thought, I believe.
Liz, everything we do has a reflection in our physical body, and our physical body will reflect in our perispirit. Likewise, anything we do to our perispirit will reflect in our physical body. So that's let's say that's a law, a nature, law of nature, right? To come to try to tie what you said with what Ebony asked, to go to that situation where I'm losing my perispirit's form is not fast, is not from a day to another. You need several situations to align to allow that to happen. Doesn't matter if I know, if I study, if I'm practicing, doesn't matter. It's my actions, it's my moral elevation, right? If we study, we'll have a better condition to evolve morally. If we practice charity, we'll have a better position to claim, if you like, right? Charity is not the salvation. Charity is what changes our heart. Our heart has to be changed, and that is the final goal. So if I'm doing that, it'll be more difficult to come to that scenario, right? But even if I do possess a lot of study, a lot of knowledge, but by one mistake, I fell into a deep depression. I fell into a deep remorse. Depression is not the right word, remorse. You don't need to be depressed to be remorse. If I'm going to a deep remorse, and then I have my karma, that we also brought that word into the Spiritism, karma. And then I have friends from the past that will claim something that we did before. So we have a lot of things to align to have that to happen. But why I'm saying that, I don't want anybody to be scared of it. So oh, that can happen to me tomorrow. No, it's not like that. But with so many things aligned in the same direction, it can happen to anyone, right? In any moment of evolution. It do not mean that the spirit is regressing, because the spirit may be idle, but it will not reverse its evolution. But it can be idle for some time, and then in the future, it start to move back again. Any question about the subject before we move on? I guess not. Now everybody is scared. Hence, spirits are beings like us, comprising a population around us that is invisible, and it is in its normal state. We say normal state because, as we shall see, this invisibility is not absolute. Okay. Let me talk a little bit about that here. When we are in the spiritual world, now I believe we know and we agree that we remain as human beings, right? We now understand that we lost our physical body and we still have our body. I could quite well say that my perispirit is my physical body to my spirit. But to avoid mismatch of words and mismatch of understanding, we are not used to say that. We call that a spiritual body. But for the spirit himself, is exactly the same as our physical body to us. They need the perispirit to interact in the environment, period. So when you go to a mediumship meeting, you don't hear a spirit saying, well, I had that spiritual body that's not what I thought it was and is doing something. No, my body is doing that. My body hurts, my body aches, my body is bleeding. They still have a spiritual body with the very same characteristics as we do. And as we all know, it is also matter. It's not exactly the same as our matter, but is matter nevertheless. Talking about matter, last week, we got a massive picture from James Webb satellite about dark matter, something we never had before. A picture was taken from the dark matter. So something that we thought that was nothing, we could take a picture of nothing. So this is just to give you guys a little bit of input of how things we perceive today may be expanded tomorrow. So if I had moved into the time to 100 years ago and said to someone, we take a picture, I'm just showing to you a picture from the dark matter, he would burn me for sure, because that would be something connected to the devil or whatever. So things are expanding in a speed that we never had before. So we need to follow that speed as well. So let's move on. What time is it? Still have time. Let's move to the item 57. Let us return to the perispirit for now, since it is essential for the explanation we are about to give. We have stated that although the perispirit is fluidic, it is nevertheless comprised of a type of matter. So here we go. That's not me talking, right? It's Kardec validating what the spirit says. That makes tangible apparitions possible, a matter to which we shall also return later. It's very interesting apparitions on materializations. Under the influence of certain mediums, we have seen hands appear that bear all the properties of living hands: warmth, tangibility, the resistance typical of a solid object, and the ability to hold onto onlookers, only to suddenly vanish like a shadow. The intelligent action of such hands, which obviously obey a will in performing certain movements, even playing tunes or musical instruments, proves that they are a visible component of an intelligent, invisible being. I have a person that I'm still dealing with him almost as daily basis. He's 96 years old and he participated in materialization meetings. We don't have many nowadays, but we still have sometimes. The last one I heard was in La de Frei Luis in Brazil, but I'm not sure if we still have somewhere else. So on those meetings, with the right preparation, with the right characteristics of mediums, and the spirit can have temporarily the physical form like we do, right? Pictures are taken, they even perform surgeries into some people. But that's another topic. So just to let you know, guys, that regardless the time that the book was written, at that time we had more events, we still have some events like that nowadays. The tangibility, the warmth, and the sensorial impressions they produce even so far as they leave visible marks on the skin, as we have witnesses, to deal painful slaps or delicately caress, to prove that they are comprised of some kind of matter. Moreover, their ability to instantaneously disappear show that this matter is extremely subtle and behaves like certain substances that can alternately pass from the solid to the fluid states and vice versa. At that time, we had a lot of those scientists that did not believe in Spiritism in the first place, trying to prove what people were reporting to, like materializations, things like that. So we have Crookes, we have so many important names for the Spiritism and for the science at the time, that they were studying mediums, proving that was a reality. Nevertheless, people did not believe. So, part of life. The action of the spirits upon matter continues. The inmost nature of the spirit per se, that is, of the thinking being, is entirely unknown to us. Let me make just a quick remark here. We can talk a little bit about perispirit, that is the spiritual body of the spirit. But at Kardec's time and today, we know nothing about the spirit itself. We should not mix the spirit with the perispirit. Perispirit is a body, right? Spirit, we don't know. We really don't know. We have no information. It is what, when we refer to the spirit, we say it is the essence of the being, but that's the little we know. It is only reveals itself through its action, and these actions can only impress our senses by means of an intermediate type of matter. Consequently, the spirit needs matter in order to act upon matter. Let me try to explain here. Now that we start to understand that the spirit is one thing, perispirit is another, only the spirit cannot act on matter. Only the spirit cannot act on matter. The spirit needs the perispirit. The spirit in possession of the perispirit in certain circumstances can act in our matter, but the spirit in possession of the perispirit can act in the matter of the spiritual world. Its direct instrument for doing so is the perispirit, just as individuals is the body, just as an individual is the body. And as we have just seen, the perispirit itself is indeed comprised of matter. As its intermediary agent, it has the universal fluid, which is a kind of vehicle upon which it acts as we ourselves act upon the air in order to produce certain effects through dilation, compression, compulsion, or vibration. I really appreciate that this topic is complicated and is not easy to observe in the first time. It takes a bit of time to get more familiar with the words, with the meanings. Let's talk about fluid a little bit. We know that we have what we call universal fluid, and some people call cosmic universal fluid, is the basis for everything that is matter. This fluid changes to create everything we know that is matter. Our physical body, our chair, our air, our water, everything. the spirit comes from a different source. Okay, so we have two main sources on the universe: the universal fluid, the cosmic universal fluid, and the intelligence that becomes the spirit, that the spirit is coming from, right? The best way to understand that universal fluid is thinking about water. Everything on Earth has water on it to some degree. Water can be hard if we frozen it, can be fluid in its natural state, can be vaporous if we boil it. Nevertheless, the chemical characteristics of the ice, of the water, and of the vapor of water is exactly the same. So this is your universal fluid. It may change its appearance. It may become something else, but the origin is the same. It is also the same for the spiritual world. The universal fluid has different characteristics. The physical the matter on the spiritual world and the spiritual body has different characteristics from our material world, but it is coming from the same origin, from this universal fluid. I don't want to throw too much, but I think it is important to know a little bit of some of those concepts to understand, right? This fluid, this universal fluid, becomes, from this universal fluid, becomes our spiritual body. Likewise, from this universal fluid is what becomes, is our physical body become, oh dear, I'm missing English here. From this universal fluid, we'll have the spiritual body and the physical body. Would be much easier in my own language. Regarded in this way, the fact that the spirits can act upon matter is easy to accept. One may thereby understand that all effects resulting from such action belong to the order of natural events and have nothing miraculous about them. They only appear supernatural because the cause behind them is unknown. So basically, as soon as we start to understand, we start to study and comprehend how the mechanism works, there's no magic, right? However, once the cause is known, they cease to be miraculous, for the cause can be found entirely in the semi-material properties of the perispirit. This is all to be treated as a new order of things, which a new lab has to come to explain, and at which, before long, no one will be amazed, just as no one nowadays is astonished by a long-distance communication, which takes only a few minutes by using electricity. I would like to think that one day we'll be able to prove things in a lab, like he's suggesting here. Perhaps, but I also believe that even if we prove in the lab, we may don't want to share what we found. And that would take a little bit longer to become common knowledge. One may perhaps ask how a spirit, with the aid of such a subtle matter, is able to act upon heavy and compact objects to lift tables, etc. It would certainly not take a scientist to raise such an objection, because without even considering the unknown properties that this new agent must possess, haven't we seen similar examples with our own eyes? Hasn't industry discovered the most powerful motives, forces in the most rarefied gases and the most imponderable fluids. When we see air topple buildings, steam, pull enormous objects, gasified blasting powder, blown stones into the air, and electricity split trees and perforate walls, is there anything so strange in accepting the fact that the spirit is, by employing its perispirit, can lift a table? Especially when it is understood that this perispirit can make itself visible, tangible, and behave like a solid object. One thing that I used to say quite often is that we want to believe in what we want to believe. I can even see proof of something and I still do not believe. And even if I don't have a better answer, if I feel like, well, it is convincing me, but for other reasons, I decide not to contemplate that possibility. Other reasons could be anything. That may tear my world apart, that may tear my belief apart, that may have financial repercussions. So many different reasons that sometimes we decide to ignore what we start to see. Unless Kardec is giving an example here, we have things we are prepared to accept. A balloon, how does it work? Is it hot air inside? Electricity, how does it work? Electrons. You know, with that, we are prepared to accept. But I think we still have a long way to go until when we talk about we, I'm talking about human race, right? We are prepared to accept openly the spiritual world. There are so many implications there. The day we all realize that life goes on, we have to change. I have to be better people. If I understand and I'm convinced that what I do today, I'll have to fix tomorrow, I'll need to change my behavior. I'll need to change things in the industry even. So we are not there. We are not there yet. And I truly believe that one day things will come closer, but still have a long way to go. Well, this chapter is over. Any questions, any comments, anything before we move on?
So what's the answer to the question about, you know, can we lose our perispirit? I suppose the answer is you can't. Is that right?
No, the answer is yes, we can.
Oh, you can.
We can. And I have a lot of people now turning noses because I said we can. A lot of spirits turning noses because I'm saying we can. But we have the answers in Kardec and in the Spiritism. But as I like to say, we like to see what we like to see. And from there, sometimes we create like a shield preventing other informations to come across. Let me bring something for you guys here. Genesis. And the Genesis man is here to help me out. We are very happy to accept that to one spirit to move from one planet to another, I need to lose my perispirit from Earth to acquire another perispirit. Am I right? I see some heads nodding there. So yes. So it's the first topic to think about it. I lose my perispirit. When the spirit evolves, it do not need the same matter, the component material things we need as a spiritual body anymore. He loses the perispirit. to the point that a high elevated spirit to come to give message in a lower zone, he needs to go to a process like on the mediumship meeting. That's described by André Luiz. And there are other examples that will corroborate with what I'm saying. Even in André Luiz, Evolution to Worlds, show us that when we die, in the very moment we are dying, there is a chemical reaction that creates a body, organs, to interact in the spiritual world. I'm not telling you anything from my mind. I'm just saying what is in the book. So when we die, the chemical reaction of the decomposition of our physical body generates organs, body, to allow our spirit to interact in the spiritual world. Likewise, we also have the reverse process to incarnate. To incarnate, we lose our flexibility of the perispirit, we lose our body, one layer at least of the body, to be able to reincarnate. Hi, Maria.
Hi, good evening. Hi, everyone. You know, you touched the point that is a question mark for me is what happens when a spirit moves from one planet to another? I always ask myself, we don't know exactly, you know, what happens in between. We know that wherever the spirit is, it draws from that planet, that region. It draws the necessary fluids to compose the perispirit.
Mm-hmm.
So not that we'll take all fluids that are there, but the ones that are compatible to the moral level, the spiritual level of that entity. But how does it happen? You know, is there anything that remains with the spirit, like sort of spiritual innate, and then it draws the rest? We don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if there's, you know, there's information somewhere, but exactly how it takes place, I have no clue.
To evolve that conversation, we need to fully understand the difference between a spirit and perispirit. That's the key element, right? Even the spirit is not just a light. It has like a very thin something, I won't give a name, very thin something that maintain his individuality. So there's something we don't know, but maintain its individuality, right? So we need to understand that we are like an onion. We have so many layers. Physical body, we peel the first one. Perispirit, we peel the other one. We can peel things until we come to the very middle. That is our spirit.
Yeah, and we know there's all this transition. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The spirit remains the same, but those peels we leave behind. We leave behind, and I don't want to throw too much information because that will go away and people will think, well, now people think I'm crazy, right? People will be sure that I'm crazy. But there are more information available to us if we decide to go in that direction and to make ourselves acquainted with that level of information, right? And avoidization is a prime example. The spirit loses its perispirit's form. It loses. And to regain the perispirit form is a long process. Sometimes even more than one reincarnation. Sometimes even more than another process I won't describe here, but other process in the spiritual world before even contemplate to reincarnate, to try to gain part of this physical, part of his perispirit form again. So it is complicated, but the information is there. What we need to, why I throw that question in the Alan's on Astral City study, because it is important to people to stop saying no. Think about it first. Look about information. Trying to find some information. Trying to find information saying yes, information saying no. Analyze that information. Let's learn how to use our common sense. And then eventually, yes, I don't particularly believe in that. I don't think it makes sense. And I will choose the option A instead of option B. But something that happens too often in the Spiritism is no, no, no why. Kardec said differently. Show it to me, please. And sometimes when we do that, the person has a shock. Show it to me. Well, you know, yeah, I think it's written. Okay, that's fine. Let's read together that test. That is your perception of what is written in this test. We need to start to create that mechanism to allow us to understand better what is written and to give us different possibilities from that point. Because it's not because, I don't know if you guys remember, but I said here, I think on the first encounter we had here, I said, do not believe in me. I will tell you what I saw, what I see, what I study, what I believe, but do not believe in me. Study by yourselves, read, interpretate. What Charlie says today is wonderful. You see, we saw a word that was a bit different than was in the original. Go in the original, check over there. Come. Study is not something that we do in 6 months' time. I'm still studying the Medium's book for years. I was still trying to learn the Medium's book. And every time we put a little bit more of ourselves into it, we find something else. We find a word that we could not perceive the word before. And that word changed the whole meaning of what is that sentence. So we need to create that mechanism to be open to possibilities. And those possibilities only we can create to ourselves, in my opinion, of course. Oh dear, I'm talking too much. 2 minutes. Any question, any comments before we wrap up for today? No. So that was very nice to have you all here today. So we will do our final prayer. I would like to ask Denise, can you do our final prayer, Denise? Yes, you.
Yes. Oh my God. Okay, yeah. Thank you, my Lord, for the opportunity to be here to discuss all these marvelous concepts and amplify our knowledge. Please give us the time and the curiosity to go and explore deeper into these concepts. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and we all have a wonderful week. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Very nice to have you all here. You see, when you guys talk, it's much better. I didn't see the time going by. So that was very nice. Very nice. So I'm looking forward to see you all in a week's time.
Thank you, Gil.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye,
Goodbye.
everybody.
Have a
Thank
nice
you
week.
all. Bless you
God
all.
bless.
Thanks. Bless you.